Well, if I found all the secret files, I'm going to take a quick break and read all of them. Might as well. Alright. Secret File Part 1. According to C, the group of immune subjects from Banoi are alive and on their way to HMAS Avenger. C convinced them to find and secure the native woman known as Subject 1 and transport her to the research facility in the jungle. Tests were run, but conclusions weren't reached. Dr. W managed to isolate the pathogen and combine it with the mutagen. Colonel W injected himself, mistakenly believing it was a vaccine. The results were quite promising. The research is continuing on Palanine, but C will be debriefed as it is believed his ambitions and aims weren't entirely aligned with those of our organization. So C here is Charon, or Kevin, as we knew him on Banoi in the prison. Dr. W is Dr. West in the lab. Colonel W is, shoot, what's his name? Ryder White. Secret File Part 2. Our high-level political players have instructed the military as to do what we need done. The commanders on the ground in Palanine have been instructed to follow our lead. Mr. S, Servo, is in Henderson, coordinating efforts as all active operatives are now in motion. Mr. M has had a conversation with General B, and he has ordered his troops to stand down to allow the test to proceed unimpeded. Not sure who Mr. M is, but General B is Sam Hardy's friend at the military base. Confirmation from S that the immunes have arrived from Banoi and now are on the HMAS Avenger. The subjects are apparently unharmed and have been put into medical isolation. Mr. S is personally supervising the antibody testing and has been instructed to send C back to headquarters for debriefing. The fifth immune identified by the military base is also being held on the vessel and has already been tested. Research on the island is proceeding apace, and the vessel will soon be leaving the archipelago. Secret File Part 4. The field laboratory in Henderson has been testing the mutagen, and the results on those infected have been consistent with Dr. W. West's research in Banoi and the historical records of the Japanese military and what they encountered 50 years earlier. This advanced strain of kudu is believed to have originated in Palanine, but was brought to Banoi by native raiders centuries ago. The effects of the pathogen mutated with an antigenic shift as multiple strains combine over time, creating what is virtually a supervirus. Part 5. Even though the Geneva Protocol prohibited the use of chemical or biological warfare, there is evidence that the Japanese used both against the Chinese during World War II. Mustard gas and other such weapons were stockpiled in the tunnels of Palanine during the war, and the strong mutagenic effects of mustard gas and other chemical agents altered the virus, turning those infected with the pathogen into monstrous, ravenous beasts. Those same chemical agents had a different, no less detrimental effect on those who were infected but clearly immune. We are currently researching both pathogenic mutagens in our field laboratory in Henderson. Part 6. Our attention in the pathogen was ignited by a study by two scientists in Palanine. The paper, by Kessler and Vila, touched on early tribal religions, beliefs, and practices based on the effects of kudu disease and on the indigenous population. They did research on the Japanese invasion in the 1940s and the mutagenic effect of chemical weapons. The journal that published the paper was obscure, but not so obscure that our analysts didn't flag it. Kessler was amenable to our overtures for more information, but Villa was suspicious and could prove to be a problem. Part 7. A research team was dispatched to Banoi and the pathogen was isolated and tested, but unfortunately the pathogen proved difficult to control. It was decided that a new test needed to be initiated on the island where the pathogen probably originated, Palanine. It's an external territory of the Australian Commonwealth, unlike Banoi, which is independent. Our political contacts and our contracts with the military allow us more latitude in running an operation on the island. Our consultants believe this test will prove the efficacy of the pathogen and show us a possible path to profitability. Part 8. Mr. S managed to escape the HMAS Avenger before it was lost at sea and joined Captain P on HMAS Holland. The military on Henderson is in disarray, and some of the commanders in the field are questioning and countermanding their orders. A few are operating independently and threatening to derail our testing. Mr. M has been instructed to proceed with Protocol 5 as General B is no longer cooperating. Mr. S considers the military base in Henderson to be an acceptable loss. Part 9. The immune subjects from Banoi contacted Mr. S from the military base in Henderson. Mr. S led an extraction team to pull them out. He indicated that they were mistrustful of his motives after their medical testing on the HMAS Avenger, but Mr. S assured us that he could gain their trust and convince them that he has offered them their only option of escape. Mr. S understands how important it is that we have the immune subjects in our custody, as antibody testing is essential if we are to create a vaccine, a necessary step in the production of any effective biological weapon. Okay, interesting. So they were going to create a vaccine and a biological weapon, release the biological weapon, and then release the vaccine at a high price, I guess. Interesting.